Did you know that frozen shoulder is a common issue for middle-aged women? Well, it is. I actually suffered from it last year, and I tell you, it's not only painful, it's disruptive to your life. So let's take a look at this condition that's causing pain and mobility issues for many women over 40. You see, frozen shoulder, also called adhesive capsulitis, is a painful condition that affects the shoulder joint, causing stiffness, discomfort, and a significant reduction in mobility. While it can affect both men and women, studies find that women between the ages of 40 and 60 are more prone to developing the condition, particularly during menopause. Now, in my situation, I am postmenopause and have been so for 6 years. And when I had frozen shoulder, it would have been, I guess, 5 years at that point. I have no idea what caused it. And experts suggest that hormonal changes during the menopausal time, particularly a drop in estrogen levels, may contribute to inflammation in the shoulder. Now, women with diabetes, I don't have diabetes, or thyroid issues, and I don't have thyroid issues. They also face a higher risk of developing frozen shoulder. Like I said, last year I suffered from frozen shoulder and was surprised that the doctor and the physical therapist said that the actual cause is unknown, but it's common in women my age and older, or 40 and older. I'm in my 50s, but over 40. Now, so basically, I think it's just pure speculation if it regarding having to do with menopause, diabetes, or thyroid issues. But I tell you, it is a long road to recovery. With physical therapy, I attended 3 times a week. Maybe it was more than that. And I believe I went for over 4 months. Plus, my masseuse, he incorporated stretching in my massage to help to loosen it up as well. So, and my massages are like every 2 weeks. So you add both of those, and it still took a long time. And even after I finished my physical therapy, laying on the floor, it took a while before this shoulder would actually hit the floor. I don't know. So, but the effects of frozen shoulder, like I said, can be debilitating. Simple activities like reaching for a shelf, dressing, putting on your clothes. You'd be surprised how much you use your shoulder when you're putting on your tops or your jackets. You don't think about it until you're dealing with the pain. And even brushing your hair, combing your hair, washing your hair becomes difficult. And all of this leads to much frustration and a lower quality of life. Now, the condition typically develops in stages, beginning with pain and stiffness, and it worsens over time. And I can attest to this. I started feeling a little bit of discomfort, and as months went by, it just suddenly, well, not suddenly, it increased in pain and limitations. So it can take months or even years to resolve. Now, treatment options include physical therapy, anti-inflammatory medications, and some cases, a corticosteroid injection to reduce inflammation, which is what I actually wind up opting for because physical therapy was taking so long and I was tired of going. I just let them just give me a cortisone shot, and immediately that eliminated a lot of the problems. Now, however, recovery, like I said, recovery can be slow, so patience is key. I ran out of patience. And doctors, they do emphasize the importance of early diagnosis and intervention to prevent long-term mobility loss. So if you get frozen shoulder, Certainly, they say it will heal over time, even if you don't go to physical therapy. But I suggest that you go to a doctor and incorporate physical therapy to speed up the process. I can't imagine, had I not done physical therapy, maybe I would have had frozen shoulder for 2 years. I don't know. Is it worth taking a chance on your health and your mobility and just uh, life, quality of life? So, if you're experiencing shoulder stiffness or pain that limits your daily activities, health professionals urge you to seek medical advice as soon as possible. And maybe it's possible, like, had I gone to the doctor when I started feeling pain early on, maybe I could have prevented from getting worse had I sought counsel. That I don't know. So that's my health report for today. Stay tuned in other episodes with more updates on managing common health conditions. Divorce, becoming a widow, job change, and retirement are just a few of life's biggest changes that can catch us off guard. My guest, Phil Weiss, is here to share the importance of life planning for women. Phil Weiss is a chartered financial analyst and certified public accountant. He has made it his mission to empower women, as he never wants to see another woman go through the financial hardships as his mother did. He helps his clients navigate their life's transitions with clarity and confidence through the life planning techniques and expertise that he has. Phil, thank you so much for joining us. This is a very much needed topic. How do you help women who are worried about their financial instability? How do you help them navigate this with life planning?
So life planning is kind of, to me, while it's tied to financial planning, it comes first. And it's really about helping you figure out what's important to you. I like to think of it as, in simple terms, aligning your money with your values. But I'll go and take that further. And I'll say that when it comes to money, there's other types of capital that we have too. And I'm going to make it a team of capital using an acronym. So, and that team is our time, our energy, our attention, and our money. So the one designation I have that you didn't mention is I am actually a registered life planner. So this isn't just something like that I made up or something like that. I went through training to get this certification. And it's really, the training itself is experiential. So I have my own life plan. But it's really important because I find that when I talk to people, a lot of times, especially when you're going through change, you don't know what's coming next. You don't know what you want to do. So we try to take a step back. I mean, the process, the life planning process is called EVOKE, another acronym. E is exploration. So during that, it's just kind of trying to ask some basic questions. Why are you here talking to me? What's important to you? What would start to think about what your most fulfilling life would be like? Yeah. Then we get into the V, which is vision. So during vision, I asked you 3 questions. The first question is really easy. It's imagine that money was no object. You just won the lottery. You do anything you want. What would you do and how would you live your life? Now we have to start to bring reality back in, and it gets much harder as we go. The second question is, this time you go to the doctor and you get the unfortunate news that you have a terminal illness. You have 5 to 10 years left to live. The good news is you're not ever going to feel sick. The bad news is you don't know when during that time you're going to go. Money is part of the equation. So now it's, what would you do? How would you live your life? And what would you change? And then we get to the third question, which is the hardest one of all. This time you go to the doctor and you find out today's the day. Now it's not what would you do, although some people try to answer it that way. It's really, what did you not get to do? Who did you not get to be? Some people take it as a question about regret. It's really not about regret to me. It's about avoiding regret. It's about what things can we do now so that we don't get to the end of life, regret having not done them. So I said that this is an experiential process. So for me in my life plan, the first element of my life plan, you mentioned that the reason I work with who I do ties to my mom. So my mother went back to school later in life. I know it was because she needed to put herself in position to get away from my father, who, it was a bad financial situation. They didn't have a good relationship. So the first element of my life plan is I want to create a scholarship for women that go back to school later in life like my mother did. And so why not try to start doing that now? And I've started to put the money aside. I'm not ready in position to fully do it yet, but I've started to put the money aside. Why not do that now when I can see what it does for people and watch people benefit from it? Then have that be something that was sitting there in my will that would go after I'm gone. It's just not the same. I mean, maybe that's, some people say, well, that sounds a little selfish, right? Because I'm getting some benefit from it, but I'm getting benefit by doing something for others. So I think that's okay. And there's other elements in my life plan too. And everybody has their own. Usually the elements in life plan center around things like family and experiences that you want to have. If you're religious, you might have some faith-based things. It all depends on the individual, but usually it's a lot of it centers around family and travel, experiences that we want to have.
Do you find that sometimes when you first meet with your potential clients or clients that they're too stressed and worried about making the wrong decision?
That can definitely happen. And so one of the things that I love about the process is it's really not me. And I didn't finish after we take those 3 questions and we take them and make them into a vision of, right? And then we go through the O as obstacles, like what can get in the way. And then that's where my knowledge, that's the K as a financial advisor, comes into play. And then the experience, now we want you to go out and live your life plan. But to get back to your question, yes, people come in that way. But when we go through the life planning process, this isn't me talking to you for the most part. Like, I use a AI tool when I meet with people online, and it tells me how long I talk. I target to talk less than 20% of the time. I want to give you an opportunity to talk, to think out loud, to figure things out. I'm here to listen and guide. I'm not really here to let you make decisions. I mean, to make your decisions. I'm here to help you decide what's best for you. You might hear people say, well, don't go buy that $15 latte, right? Because it's expensive. But if that's really important to you, you can do it. You just have to figure out what it is that you're not going to do because you do that. So it's not an approach where it says, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's let's figure out what you can do and let's figure out those things that are most important to you and help you do those things. And then there's other things that are less important. There's going to be some that are at the bottom of the list. You don't really care if you ever get them done. And there's some that they're nice to haves. And if things work out well, we can do them. And if they don't, that's okay. But the whole purpose is having somebody listen when you're stressed can really help a lot. And that this is really a listening process from my side.
Okay, can you give me an example of a client without, of course, nothing personal named? You already know that. I don't even have to say it.
Sure can. So the life planning training has 3 stages. The first stage, it's like a 2-day training that talks where you explore and I always ask people about this, what are your early money memories and things like that, because that really has a lot of bearing on how we think about and view and deal with money in our lives. And if we can understand that, we can help to overcome those things. And then the second part is the 5-day experiential training. And then we have a mentorship at the end. Part of the mentorship is to do a case study. I came home from the middle part before I even started my mentorship. And I'd been home for like a week. And one of my clients sent me an email. And it basically said this, Phil, I've taken a leave of absence from my job. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm ever going back, but I had to do this. I don't know what it means for my financial plan because she's an existing client. I don't know any of this. I don't know what I'm going to do. I started to email her. I said, nope, this is not time for an email. Pick up the phone. I called her and I said, what's going on? Well, it ends up, and I knew I found out more details over time, but she had a really stressful job. I knew that. She had a daughter that had just started college. So, empty nest, right? But there were a lot of things that daughter was experiencing that I didn't know about. She has another daughter was just starting high school. So again, lots of things are going on. And she didn't have time to be a mom.
Mhm.
And her job was really stressful. So I said, let's work on your life plan. We worked on her life plan. One of the things, so that left her with the confidence that she could actually leave that job that she didn't like at all.
Okay.
And she's in her early 50s. She's now essentially retired. What she did do is I got another email from her this about a year after we did it. She said, so Philip, when I was in my 20s, I would go to Cubs games and say, when I get older, I want to be like those little old ladies taking tickets, being an usher, whatever it is. So she goes, so I went on the Cubs website and I applied for a job. She goes, I went in, I'm wearing my Cubs jersey, my Cubs World Series t-shirt, and there's all these younger kids there. And she goes, I got the job. So this year she worked for the Cubs. She did some concerts too. I don't know that she'll do it again, but she had a wonderful time. She had me come out to meet some of her friends, one of whom became a client. And when we talked about those three questions that I said, she said, going through those three questions changed my life.
Wow. So you're like a combination of a life coach and a financial planner.
Yes.
Therapist coach.
I don't want to call myself a therapist.
Right.
But yeah, it's more, there's definitely life coaching in there. I mean,
yeah,
I can tell you other stories too, but somebody that really buys into this process, it can be very meaningful because it really has the impact of helping you figure out these things that are important that you didn't think about. The same client also, she read my life plan. And after she read it, she said, thank you. I've been sitting here trying to build the biggest pile of money, but I never thought about what it was for or how much I needed, right? There's always the concept of enough. What's enough? We don't know. And you say, oh, I want to have $1 million. And then you get $1 million. And now you want 2 million, and then you get to 2 and you want more. Like we always want more. And we never sit back and figure out when it's enough, because we're not here to just work, right? We want to have time with our family. We want to have our experiences. There's other things that we want to do. It could be a charitable thing you want to do. It could be lots of different things, but we never take the time to figure that out and how much we need. And so that's the other thing. When you go through this process, it helps you get a better idea how much you need so you can figure out when you do have enough and take away some of that FOMO that we all experience. You can look at somebody's fancy house or somebody's fancy car and say, I want that. But what you don't know is how much debt they have or whatever else they had to do to get it. There's a lot of people that have those big fancy houses, and then we have a difficult economic time, and all of a sudden they're forced to move.
Yeah. Or
because they really couldn't afford it.
And they're absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that society tends to define people. It's like define what we should want and how we should live, how much money we should make. And you're helping women tap back, or your clients in general, tap back into finding who they are. And I think women specifically, because they juggle a career, kids, friends, relationships, they're juggling so much. There's no time to just think about what really will make them happy and make them complete. There's no quiet time. So you're making them basically sit down and reevaluate who they are.
That's right. I mean, it's tough. I mean, women, you mentioned caregiving. That's one thing right? Women have a lot more caregiving responsibilities. Women typically make less than men. When it comes to investing, I'll be honest, women that invest actually do better than most men because women are more patient than men. I mean, a lot of men want like that next big score or whatever. They're more likely to trade. Women aren't. But the other thing that happens when it comes to investing is that women lack confidence. That's a big thing. I remember reading that, and I tried this. If you give a quiz on finances to women and I don't know is a choice, they'll put I don't know because they're not confident they know the answer, and they'll score less than men. But if you take away I don't know as a choice, and make them give an answer, they'll actually do just as well, but they lack confidence. And so, that's why too, working with somebody can really help, because it can help you understand and get that confidence. I always tell people there are no dumb questions.
Mhm.
It's only dumb if you didn't ask, because if you don't know the answer and you don't ask, you're never going to know the answer. So you need to ask. If you don't know, it's fine. Ask, and then you can find out and understand.
So how do you help that client find that confidence that's needed?
So I think it really helps to have somebody to work with, so that when you have questions, there's somebody there, and it's somebody that's willing to sit down and explain it. My firm is called Apprise Wealth Management, and that was a very intentional name choice, because Apprise means to inform. And if you look at our education system, we don't help people understand much about financial education. There's not a lot of courses that do this. So I offer webinars. I'm happy to sit with you and answer any question you have. If you want to understand why I recommend this stock position or this allocation in your portfolio, I can do that. If you want to understand anything related to your finance, hey, I want to buy a new house. Can I afford it? I can help you. So now you have an ally to work with you to help you get through these things and understand them. I mean, I think that's a big part. And there's plenty of things that you can read. I always say that anybody could do what I do, but again, I'm going to use an acronym. You have to have KIT. And if you're doing it yourself, and that's the knowledge, right? And you can get the knowledge. You have to have the interest. And some people are interested and some people aren't. And then the most important one of all, you have to have the time.
Yeah.
And as we go through life gets more complicated, because either because of family or because of our jobs or whatever it may be, and we don't have the time. And so it's great to have somebody that can help you in that way. And then you think about it, until we get to where we're retired, we're saving for the most part, right? We're supposed to be saving. And then we switch when we retire. We go from saving to spending, and all the rules change, because the rules that you have to think about when you're taking money out of your retirement accounts are very different than when they go in. So it's also time you can a lot of people can kind of make do along the way, but then as retirement gets closer, then it becomes even more important, because there's so much things like, you said I'm a CPA. So I started my career as a tax guy. And there's so many things that we can do from a tax perspective. It's not about keeping your taxes down in any one year. It's about what's the way to optimize and minimize your taxes paid over your lifetime instead of just in any one year, because that's really the goal. You can see something, well, because of this, and this, I didn't pay any taxes this year. And then 2 years down the line, they paid this really high tax bill. But if they had planned appropriately, they could have leveled it out and paid less in total by doing good planning.
Okay. Now, if I have a watcher who's like, I do okay financially, but wealth management, I'm not wealthy. So would you even work with me?
I can. So there's two ways that I work with people in terms of getting paid. One is I can work with you so I'm fee only, first of all. I don't sell products. So I'm not earning commissions. I have no incentive to have you make any certain investment, because I don't get compensated for it. So there's two ways that I can work with you. I can work with you on an asset-based approach, which is the traditional way that fee-only advisors work, which means I get paid a percentage each quarter of the amount of assets that I'm managing. Or I have some clients that like to do these themselves, like the story that I told. That client manages her own portfolio. We talk about it, like we talk about our allocation. I make recommendations and things like that, but she manages her portfolio. She still works with me. She pays me a flat quarterly fee.
That's
So
different.
yeah, I mean, it allows me to work with people that have less, that are looking to get, to grow. Now I have a minimum that I would like to get, but it does give you two options. So some of my clients, they only have, some of my clients I manage money for, some I don't. Some of the ones that I get that flat fee from, they still don't have a lot, but I manage what they do have. But I don't charge them extra for that, because it's included in that flat fee.
Got it. Okay. And you wrote a book. You want to tell us a bit about that as well?
Sure. I wrote a book It's really about this process. So it's called How to Flourish Through Life's Big Changes, 5 Steps for Women Facing New Beginnings. And so new beginnings is a nicer way to talk about transition, because there's so many other, when I was looking at that name and that word, like there's so many other meanings it could have. And this is a nice one. Plus it's taking I like it because it's a positive spin on transition too, as opposed to just the negative connotations that we get that come with transitions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because any big change is a new beginning.
Yes, exactly.
That's true. I like that you have a book, because if someone feels a bit intimidated about coming to you, they can read the book to get an idea of your process and then reach out to you as well. But you also have a blog that provides information.
That's correct. I blog every week. I have it's 3 different forms. One week is long form content that's usually around 2,000 words, give or take. And I'll go deep into a topic. Then the next week, I'll do what I call my blogs always come out on Tuesday. So it's a Tuesday tip video. So I'll record a video that's around 3 minutes long, give or take. There'll be a transcript with it. Well, I'll just touch on an issue in a little bit lesser level. And then the third is where really I started my blog, and now it's only one of the 3, it's runs every third week, it's called My Favorite Reads. So I have an opening that's always life planning oriented. And then after that opening, I share 5 things that I read now over the past 3 weeks. It used to be every week, but over the past 3 weeks, I'm reading all the time. I love to learn. And so that's part of my learning. And I share 5 things that I read, and I write 3 or 4 sentences telling you a little bit about the article, why it's important. Usually the first, third, and fifth one related to personal finance. The second and fourth are related to anything else that I found interesting.
Okay, great. So is there anything else that you want to share with the audience before you leave? And also, my apologies for not mentioning your company. It is on the ticker beneath us, so the website as well. But is there anything you want to share to the audience before you let them know how they can reach you?
Sure. I always like to share my story because I think it says a lot, because I'm a guy, right? And I work with women. Why is that? So I mentioned my mom, so I'm going to tell you this story. So growing up in my household, it was the typical model. My father was responsible for the finances. My mother took care of my sister and I. The only problem was my father was not good at managing finances in the least. We would have unpaid bills. We had no credit. When I was old enough to drive, I remember having to go down to the phone company, the electric company, to pay bills to get services turned back on. When it was time for me to go to school, I was told, go anywhere you want. I wanted to be a doctor. I became a psychology major, and I went to Duke. After 3 years, my father wasn't paying, and I had done a lot to stay in school for 3 years. But I owed the school enough money that we came to the mutual decision. I mean, I met with the president of the school, like that helped me stay in school. I did a lot to try to stay, but decided I needed to pay what I owed before I could finish. I only needed 6 courses to graduate at the time. When I was ready to go back to school, the financial situation wasn't any better. So I couldn't afford it. And I'm like, I'm going to get a psychology degree. And I had done okay in school, but I didn't think medical school was in the cards. I had moved across the country to Tucson. I'm originally from New Jersey. And I applied instead to University of Arizona and to Rutgers, because Duke doesn't even offer accounting degrees. A lot of just like the Ivy League schools, they want you to go get your undergraduate degree in something else and then go get your MBA. Well, that wasn't going to happen. That wasn't something I could afford. I decided to come back home because I thought I'd get a better job coming out of Rutgers than coming out of U of A. Meanwhile, my mother had gone back to school. She'd become an occupational therapist. She started her own business. When I came back, after I finished at Rutgers, I came home one day, went and got the mail, and I'm looking, and I see bills with my name on them, but they weren't mine. My father, I said he couldn't get credit. He opened up credit card accounts in my name so that he could get credit. And I found out. I actually got one of the credit card companies to give me send me the application, and I know his writing, so I knew it was his signature. I got those cards paid off, taken out of my name. They let him keep them. So here's where the problem gets worse. So then my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. That's when we found out how bad things really were. My parents were in a situation where they're going to have to move out of their home. The credit cards that they've let my father keep, since they were no longer in my name, he didn't even pay them anymore. So there was big balances owed. My mom asked me to help. I did what I could, but unfortunately, my mom didn't make it. Her cancer metastasized to her brain and she passed away. So that's how now, like I said, I do my work to try to help keep other women from having the experiences and going through what my mother did.
Yeah, because that stress added on to the health issues are not helpful at all.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
Wow, powerful story. How would a potential client reach you, and what is the process once they do?
So the easiest way to reach me is you can go to my website, which is apprisewealth.com, and you can go to my contact page, and that'll send me an email, or you can email me directly. It's Phil Weiss at apprisewealth.com. So PHILWEISS at apprisewealth.com. Either way, I don't charge anything for initial meetings. Really, and it usually takes 2 meetings, sometimes 3, for a person to make a decision. And there's no charge until we've decided to work together, because we've got to make sure it's a good fit for me and for you. Right? It's got to be a good fit, because working with an advisor becomes a very intimate relationship, and it has to be somebody that you're comfortable with, because if it's not, then that's not the right person. There's somebody else out there. There's lots of advisors. You have to find the one that's best for you in terms of the back and forth, the rapport that you can develop, their knowledge, and your needs. So you want to find that right person. So, and we start with that exploration process. None of the rest of life planning happens unless you become a client. I will tell you that. But we can start with the exploration.
And are your meetings only in person or virtual as well?
The vast majority of my meetings are virtual. Now, I have clients in, it's like 18 states.
Mm-hmm. That's the power of online.
It sure is. It's wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And ladies, please reach out, explore his website, explore the blog, look for his book. I have the photo up there for you to check it out. Reach out to him by his email. And you said by
the contact, if you go to contact on the website, you can get to me as well.
On the website as well. Get your life planning in order so that you can bridge the gap between now and where you want to be, and just have more financial stability, because that does actually affect your health and, of course, your life overall.
Yes, it does. It's really important.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it and appreciate it.